0 hours, 0 minutes, and 0 seconds, the May sun beat down on the Stanford University graduation ceremony as 23,000 people filled the stadium. I sat in the sea of red caps and gowns. My computer science PhD finally complete after 6 grueling years. Around me, my classmates were taking selfies and texting family members, their faces glowing with excitement and relief. I checked my phone and saw 3 missed calls from my parents, but no congratulatory messages. Instead, there was a single text from Dad that made my stomach drop. "Your mother and I have discussed it. After 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 32 seconds today, don't expect any help from us. You're 28 years old and it's time you learn to stand on your own 2 feet. We're cutting off all financial support effective immediately." I stared at the message feeling a familiar mix of hurt and frustration. Even on my graduation day, a day that should have been about celebrating my achievements, Dad was finding a way to remind me that I was a disappointment. The truth was I hadn't asked for their help in over 4 years. I'd been supporting myself through graduate school with research 0 hours, 1 minute, and 3 seconds assistantships, teaching positions, and what Dad dismissively called my computer hobby. But in his mind, I was still the irresponsible child who needed constant reminders about financial reality. "Alex, you okay?" whispered Jessica, the friend sitting next to me. "You look like you just got bad news." I showed her the text. Her jaw dropped. "On your graduation day? Seriously? What kind of parent?" "The kind who thinks I'm wasting my life," I said quietly. According to Dad, getting a PhD in computer science was just an excuse to 0 hours, 1 minute, and 37 seconds avoid getting a real job for 6 more years. Jessica shook her head in disbelief. Around us, families were cheering and taking photos as graduates walked across the stage. I could see other parents in the stands beaming with pride as their children received their diplomas. My parents were somewhere in the crowd, too, but apparently more concerned with teaching me life lessons than celebrating my accomplishment. My phone buzzed with another text, this time from Mom. "Your father is right, Alexandra. It's time to grow up and face the real 0 hours to minutes and 9 seconds world. We won't be bailing you out anymore." Bailing me out? I hadn't asked them for money since my sophomore year of undergrad. In fact, I'd been sending them money recently. Small amounts when I knew they were struggling with bills, always disguised as gifts or loans I insisted they didn't need to repay. Dr. Alexandra Bennett called the announcer, and I realized it was finally my turn to cross the stage. I walked across the platform in a daze, shook hands with the dean, and accepted my diploma. The PhD I'd worked 60 hours, 0 hours to minutes, and 41 seconds weeks to earn. The research that had already been cited in dozens of academic papers. The algorithms I developed that were being used by major tech companies. All of it suddenly felt diminished by my parents' message. As I walked back to my seat, my phone rang. The caller ID showed David, CFO, and I almost declined the call. David was my chief financial officer at Spectrum Analytics, the company I'd founded in my 2nd year of grad school. He knew I was at graduation and wouldn't call unless it was urgent. "David, I'm 0 hours, 3 minutes, and 11 seconds literally at my graduation ceremony," I whispered as I answered. "Alex, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have news that couldn't wait." His voice was practically vibrating with excitement. "The IPO launched 15 minutes ago." My heart started pounding. We'd been preparing for this initial public offering for 8 months, but the final approval had come through just last week. I'd been so focused on finishing my dissertation that I'd almost forgotten today was the launch date. And I asked, though I could tell from 0 hours, 3 minutes, and 42 seconds his tone it was good news. "Alex, we priced at $28 per share, which was already above our target range. But the market response," he paused for dramatic effect. "We opened at $47 and we're currently trading at $52. The company is valued at $6.2 billion. The words hit me like a physical $6.2 billion. I own 73% of Spectrum Analytics, which meant, Alex, are you there? You just became a billionaire, a multi-billionaire. I was so shocked that I forgot to lower my voice. Are you serious? $6.2 billion. Several graduates around me turned to 0 hours for minutes and 23 seconds stare. Jessica's eyes went wide. Dead serious. The Wall Street Journal is calling it the most successful tech IPO in 5 years. CNBC wants an interview this afternoon. Bloomberg is running a feature on you as the youngest female billionaire in tech. Alex, you did it. I was trying to process this information when I noticed that more people around me were listening. The words billion and IPO had a way of cutting through graduation ceremony chatter. David, I'm surrounded by people. Can we talk about this later? Of course, but Alex, there's 0 hours for minutes and 57 seconds. One more thing. Goldman Sachs is predicting the stock will hit $65 by the end of the week. If they're right, we're looking at a $7.8 billion valuation. My hands were shaking as I hung up the phone. Jessica grabbed my arm. Did he just say billion? With ABI, I nodded, still in shock. Around us, other graduates were staring and whispering. The news was spreading through our section like wildfire. That's when I saw my parents making their way down the stadium steps toward the graduate seating area. Mom was clutching her purse tightly, her face 0 hours 5 minutes and 31 seconds set in the stern expression she wore when she was about to deliver a lecture. Dad was checking his phone, probably preparing to send another message about my need to become financially responsible. They reached the edge of the graduate section just as my phone rang again. This time it was Maria Santos, our head of public relations. Alex, congratulations! The IPO is already making headlines. I have interview requests from every major business publication. The Today Show wants you on tomorrow morning. And Fortune is fast-tracking a cover story. 0 hours 6 minutes and 4 seconds. I could see my parents getting closer, pushing through the crowd of families and graduates. They clearly had more to say about my financial irresponsibility. Maria, I'm still at graduation. I know, and I'm sorry to call, but this is huge. Spectrum Analytics is being called the next Google. Your facial recognition software is going to revolutionize everything from security to social media. The Pentagon contract alone is worth $400 million. My parents were now close enough to hear if I spoke at normal volume. Part of me wanted to 0 hours 6 minutes and 35 seconds hang up and avoid the confrontation, but another part of me, the part that had been dismissed and criticized for years, decided it was time they heard the truth. Maria, can you repeat that? I want to make sure I heard the numbers correctly. Of course. Spectrum Analytics went public this morning at a $6.2 billion valuation. Your 73% stake makes you worth approximately $4.5 billion. The Pentagon contract is worth $400 million. Microsoft just licensed your technology for $200 million. And we have deals pending with Apple, 0 hours 7 minutes and 10 seconds, Amazon, and Facebook. I put the call on speaker. The facial recognition algorithms you developed are being called a breakthrough in artificial intelligence. MIT is offering you a full professorship, and the National Science Foundation wants to fund your next research project with a $50 million grant. The graduates around me had gone completely silent. Even the families nearby had stopped talking to listen to this surreal phone conversation happening in the middle of a graduation ceremony. My parents reached my row just 0 hours 7 minutes and 40 seconds as Maria continued. Alex, you're about to be one of the most famous entrepreneurs in America. The story is already trending on social media. Stanford PhD student becomes billionaire on graduation day is the top headline on every business website. Dad's face had gone completely white. The phone he'd been holding slipped from his hand and clattered onto the concrete steps. Also, Maria added, I should mention that the university is already planning to name the new computer science building after you. The $100 million donation you 0 hours 8 minutes and 13 seconds committed will fund scholarships for underprivileged students for the next 50 years. Mom made a small choking sound. Maria, thank you for the update. Let's schedule a proper meeting for tomorrow to discuss the media strategy. Absolutely. And Alex, congratulations. You built something incredible. I hung up and looked at my parents, who were standing frozen in the awe like statues. Dad's mouth was hanging open and Mom was clutching her purse so tightly her knuckles had turned white. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. I said quietly. I got 0 hours 8 minutes and 47 seconds your text about not expecting help anymore. The graduation ceremony was continuing around us, but our little section had become its own bubble of shocked silence. Other families were staring opally now, realizing they were witnessing some kind of family drama involving a billionaire. Alexandra, Dad finally managed to say, his voice barely above a whisper. What just happened? I became a billionaire, I said simply. The company I founded went public this morning. Spectrum Analytics develops artificial intelligence for facial 0 hours 9 minutes and 20 seconds recognition, security systems, and social media platforms. But you're a student, Mom said weakly. You don't have a company. You're getting your PhD in computer science. I have both. I founded Spectrum Analytics during my second year of graduate school. We started with a $50,000 grant and grew from there. The technology one developed for my dissertation the foundation for our core products. Jessica leaned over. Alex, you never told us you owned a company. I don't really talk about it. I prefer to focus on my research and let the 0 hours 9 minutes and 56 seconds business team handle operations. But we've been growing steadily for 4 years. We have offices in Silicon Valley, Austin, and Boston with about 300 employees. Dad sat down heavily on concrete steps, his face pale. 300 employees? As a veil.